Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another update in my 19 Shadows in 2019 project. This was a project that I started back in January, so if you missed the introduction or any of the updates, I'll leave my playlist for this project link down below. But this was a project that was hugely inspired by Lexi here on YouTube, so I will leave her channel as well as the playlist for her Pan Those Eyeshadows down below. She's not doing this project this year, she's doing a Pan That palette, which has been really fun to follow that as well. I love all of Lexi's project videos, all of her videos. She has a really great channel, so I highly recommend you guys go check her out. I know lots of people are doing the styles of Pan Those Eyeshadow project this year, so I'll leave tons of other videos and channels linked down below in case you guys are interested in more videos like this. I know for me personally it's been a really fun project for me to do this year. I'm doing mine a little bit different than, well, actually everyone kind of has their own variation of how they're doing this, which I also think is so fun that everyone's kind of taken the idea and made it their own. So anyway, if you guys are interested in this month's update, then stay tuned. But if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I hope you consider doing so before you go. I post videos every single Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. And without further ado, let's get into the update. Okay, so if you guys missed the introduction or if you've missed any of the updates but you don't feel like going back to watch those, I'll try and briefly bring you up to speed on everything that's going on in this project. So basically, I've randomly selected 19 different shadows throughout my collection. 4 of them are single eyeshadows and the rest are from palettes that were randomly selected via a random number generator. And I'm trying to pan 19 different shadows by the end of the year. Up until this point, I had only hit pan on 2 different shadows in this project. I have hit pan on quite a few eyeshadows this year. I know I hit pan on 2 shades in my Tartelette in Bloom palette. I can't speak today. I also hit pan on a shade in my Tarte Love Trust and Fairy Dust palette, and then I know there's a Wet n Wild palette that I hit pan on that's not in this project. So at least 4 other shades. I'll get the exact number in my next update. In this project, I had hit pan on this like basically bone colored shade in the Wet n Wild Nude Awakening palette. I don't know if you'll be able to see the pan. Hopefully you can. I would say it's a little baby pan, but it's like a little bit bigger than baby. This is one that I will come back to at some point this year and just try and finish off the entire shade, but I did hit my goal of just hitting pan on this. And then I also, sorry you guys, I'm struggling to figure out my new camera and its autofocus. And then I also hit pan last month on the shade Lula from the ABH and Mario palette. Hopefully I'll be able, this is truly a little baby pan. This is one that I will come back to too at some point, but I've been trying to focus on some other shades throughout this project because progress is a little bit slow going in this project, and I'm a little bit concerned that I'm not going to pan as many shades as I want to. So I will eventually come back to this. The Mario palette is one of my favorites, and I really do love that Lula shade. It's kind of like a cool toned transition shade, and oftentimes I'll just pop that in my crease and take off for work, and it's like the perfect shade for that. So this month I had 4 different eyeshadow palettes from this project that I was mainly focused on. So this is where like the heart of the progress is going to be. 3 of them more palettes, and then I also have my little quad that I'm working on. So I'm going to share that with you guys last because that'll be like the most exciting, and I'll share with you like the least exciting progress first. So there's a few palettes that I literally did not use this month. The first is the Colored Rain Queen of Hearts palette. I am trying to pan the shade Royal Prerogative, and as you can tell there's like very minimal progress on this shade because I have barely used it. This is one that I intend to pull out more in the fall time. I just feel like it gives me more like fall vibes, so that is when I will focus on this palette. Then I have my Huda Emerald Obsessions palette, and this one is going to be a tough one, but I mentioned this in all of my updates. What I love about this project is, so I randomly selected this palette, and this is the shade that I'm currently trying to pan, but there's like some love on some of the other shades too. So this is a palette that I was literally not reaching for. I'm not uber impressed by the Huda Gemstone. I think these are her gemstone line. I think this was their gemstone line. Not uber impressed by this one or the Amethyst palette, but I'm really excited that I've reached for this already more than I would have had this not been in this project. This again is the shade that I'm trying to pan. I don't think it has a name, but I don't think I reached for this one at all this month, so there'll be no progress on that. Then I also have the Huda Mob Obsessions palette going in this project, and I'm trying to pan the center shade. There'll be no progress on this one either. I didn't reach for this one at all because again, this one gives me more fall vibes, so I figured it'll be a really easy palette for me to focus on in the fall time. I do really love the Mob Obsessions palette, so I don't think this one's going to be a problem to pan. As I was saying before I went out of focus, I don't think that this one is going to be a problem to pan. It's just not one that I was focused on this month. Okay, so next up I had a shade from the Alamar Cosmetics palette that I was working on. I'm working on the shade La Costa right here. I should be swatching these for you guys. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to go back and swatch the other ones, but here is La Costa. It's just a really beautiful, like, it's not even really like, it's like a pinky silver metallic shade, and it is super metallic. I had focused on this quite a bit last month and not as much this month just because I was focused on other shades. I am bringing a couple palettes with me on vacation. This is not one of them, but when I get back from vacation, this is one that I do think I'm going to focus on in the month of May, so hoping to have some more progress to show you guys next month's update. I don't know that I reached for this at all this month, so I don't know that there'll be any progress to share on this shade. I will insert pictures of everything, but again, some of them, you guys, there's going to be literally no progress. Okay, reached for this palette a little bit this month, but progress will still probably look fairly minimal. This is this 4 Pro palette. It's the editorial one. There's 3 pans that I'm trying to, or 3 shades that I'm trying to pan. The first is this stark white shade, which I used a couple of times, but you probably won't be able to see much for progress. I'm also trying to pan this red fiery orange shade, which is such a beautiful shade. I really do enjoy this, and I reached for this a couple times, but again, you probably won't be able to see much progress, if any at all. And then finally, I have this like green shade. It's almost like a greeny red shade. It's a really cool shade. It has like a duochrome shift. I forget how cool this shade is. Oh, I'm excited to, I'll probably play around with this one more in the fall time. God, that is a cool shade. I forget how cool that is. So you probably won't be able to see any visual progress on these shades. These are some that make me a little bit nervous. For me personally, I find it easier to pan matte shades. I feel like most people find it easier to pan mattes. And the majority of shades that I'm trying to pan in this one are shimmers, but I'm working on it. I'm working hard. We'll see. Next up is my Carli Babel palette, and I'm trying to pan this center shade right here. I'm really glad that this palette ended up being one that ended up in this project, because this was one that I was not reaching for at all. And while I didn't reach for this at all last month, I know I'll be able to hit pan in this palette by the end of the year. I'm going to focus on this one again more in the fall time. So I've gotten quite a bit of use out of this shade as well as this deeper purple shade, and this is a really beautiful palette. I know you can't get this anymore, but I personally have really enjoyed my time with this palette. I really do like some of the highlights too, both on the cheek and then used on the eyelids. I think they are beautiful, so was really happy to play around my lighting too. Was happy to get to play around with this palette quite a bit already this year, and this is not one that makes me nervous. I'm fairly confident I will hit pan on the shade from this palette. Next we have the ABH Prism palette, and this is another palette that was virtually untouched in my collection. And again, I did not use this one at all this month, but there are quite a few shades in here that I've gotten to play around with that basically had no use at all on them, and now there is, you know, some visual wear on them. I am trying to pan the shade Lure, which is this mauve tone shade, very similar to the Carli Babel shade. This one I'm pretty certain I'll be able to hit pan on. Again, this is probably one that I'll focus on again come the fall time, so probably won't see much for progress on this in the next few months, but once we hit the fall time, I'm pretty certain that I can fly through that shade. All right, now on to the palettes that I was focused on this month. So I did hit pan in one shade this month, and it was one of my singles, and I don't even know if you'll be able to see it. It's such a baby pan, but this is on my Makeup Geek shadow in the shade Creme Brulee. I hope you guys can see the little itty bitty baby pan. Oh yeah, I just saw it glisten. This shade, you guys, I literally use this like every single day this month. This took so much effort to hit pan on this. These pans are so deep, and I just feel like it takes a lot of effort to pan an a Makeup Geek shadow. Now, okay, these three you can ignore, these aren't going in this project. It's this little quad right here. So I hit pan on this. I used this shade a couple of times from Makeup Geek. I'm not gonna lie, you guys, my little quad of shadows, the only one I thought I could hit pan on was Creme Brulee, which I've obviously hit pan on, but I was pretty much gonna give up on these three and just call it like, just not even try. However, now I'm like determined. So I used this one a few times this month. This is in the shade Burlesque. You probably won't be able to see much for progress on this, but this is going to be more of a fall time shade. This shade, this is a MAC shadow, and this in the shade Shroom, and this is a really beautiful inner corner highlight, and you'll be able to see a dip where I have been working on this. I've used this a lot this month. This is one that I was going to give up on, but then I tossed it in my inner corner one day and I was like, okay, I really like this as an inner corner highlight. It's kind of like a satin, not like a super like bright glistening inner corner highlight, more of a satin, not quite as intense. And then I actually have used this a couple of times as a cheek highlight too, like right before I go to the gym, just as like a subtle cheek highlight, and I liked it for that. So I'm hoping that I can hit pan on this. This is going to take quite a bit of effort. I think it'll take a few more months, but I am going to continue to work on that shade. And then this is the one that I like really have not used at all. This is the shade Corrupt by Makeup Geek, which is obviously a really dark black. I don't foresee myself hitting pan on this year, but you never know. So I will try to include a picture of this quad. I think I've only taken one picture of this quad up until now. I think I took one at the introduction, but I have not worked on these shades at all until this past month, so this might be the only other picture I have of these. Then we have my BH Weekend Festival palette, and I'm going to be bringing this with me on vacation. I'm currently trying to pan two shades from this palette. This shade right here, Escape, which is like a warm brown matte shade, and then also this shade Boho, which is a beautiful pink gold glitter, not glitter, shimmer shade, which I also really like. I've reached for this palette quite a bit. You can see, like when I insert pictures, hopefully you'll be able to see that I've gotten some use out of some other shades in this palette as well. I love this palette. I think it's such a good palette. $18. You get super high quality shadows. I really do want to pick up the other palette, kind of like the sister palette that they just released, but I haven't done it yet. But it's on my eye, or it's on my eye. I have my eye on it. Next up from Juvia's, I have the Deuce palette, and I am working on the shade Berry Mousse right here. I mostly use this to set my lids. Sometimes I'll use this as a very subtle crease shade, and I'm hoping in the pictures you'll be able to see that there's a good dip going on this, but this is a huge pan, and I have a feeling it's probably a fairly deep pan too. If I'm lucky and remember to use this on a consistent basis, I'm hoping to maybe hit pan in this by the end of May, hopefully for sure by the end of June. But I've also had some fun with some of the other shades in this palette as well. The shimmers I really like. I'm not gonna lie, the bright mattes do intimidate me some, but I definitely have gotten more use than I would have had this not been in this project. And then finally, my last palette is the Urban Decay Born to Run, and I was focused on this one quite a bit. I'm not gonna lie, I spent so much time with that Makeup Geek shadow. I didn't spend as much time with the other palettes in my collection as I wanted to, but this is another palette that is coming on vacation with me, and I'm currently trying to pan the shade Riff. Now what I'll say is I feel like you're not going to be able to see as much visual progress as I feel like I've actually used this palette or this shade. I used this a lot this month, and I feel like these shadows are super firmly pressed, which is why you're not gonna I feel like you're not gonna see much progress. I've come to really love the shade Double Life as well as Accelerate. I also always wear Punk with Riff. Usually I do like Riff, Punk, and then either Double Life or Accelerate on the lid, and I think it's super beautiful. I love the look that it gives. I also love the shade Blaze as well as Breakaway. I think Breakaway is such a beautiful inner corner highlight. Blaze I use as an inner corner highlight too, but it's just like a really unique shade. I don't know how to even describe it, but I love the shade Blaze. So I'm really excited to take this one on vacation. Hopefully get some more good use out of this. I'm going to be kind of focusing on the same palettes this month as I was last month. Hopefully we'll hit pan on more than one shade. in the month of May, but we'll see. But after that, you guys, that is going to conclude my update for my 19 shadows in 2019 project pan. If you guys are doing a project similar to this, leave a link for your video down below. I love this style of video, so I'm like constantly trying to find other videos like this. Other than that, if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I hope you consider doing so before you go, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Bye.